Welcome to the Decode. This is Rev 1.17. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name is Daniel Stanfill with Aurora Boardworks.
And this is Elias Malfavon with Metal Etch Services.
I'm Sean Kincaid with K&F Electronics.
And our guest this week is Bill Capen from Honeywell. He's an engineering technical specialist there. Hails from Kansas City. Senior engineering technical specialist there. Hails from the Kansas City, Missouri area. He is the chapter president for the Heartland chapter. He is the IPC chairperson. He is an IPC 7711/7721 trainer. So I guess we'll stop there and just kind of ask you, Bill, before we get too far in the weeds, would you like to give any further background other than that short bio, or maybe how long you've been doing this, how many different places you've worked, however you want to go.
I've been doing this for 37 years. Literally, I started as a tech, worked my way through engineering, and now I'm in, I guess we'll call it management of some sort. I've been doing this for a long time. People have questioned me. I went from Wisconsin to Michigan to Illinois to Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania to Kansas City. So I have seen many of this great state, and I will just say, enjoyed Michigan, enjoyed the Coney dog, enjoyed Jet's Pizza.
Yeah, I had it tonight.
Jet. There you go. No, it's all good. This has been a great industry. I get to meet with great people like you, so that's what I'm going to say.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and that's quite the resume you have. Sorry about your time in Michigan. Hopefully you didn't bump into Sean, but I wanted to learn a little bit about your day-to-day type responsibilities. What exactly a senior engineering technical specialist does.
I am not your traditional engineering technical specialist. My job is more of a project manager for certain construction projects right now. Normally my engineering technical people are the techs on the SMT floor. I've kind of moved away from the floor, so I'm actually doing a lot of construction work for new projects we're working on. So my normal day is, the best way to describe it is politics with a side of politics, and just for fun, and dessert of politics. So that's my fun.
Nice.
You say construction, I don't imagine you with a sledgehammer
these hands are really soft. There's no way to do a sledgehammer.
So maybe break that down a little bit for us. What does that entail?
So my facility is a wonderful facility that is having to adapt and grow and have opportunities for new equipment and stuff like that. So we play Tetris and Jenga and everything like that because it's a very large building that has everything filled. And so we're trying to find spots to put stuff. And so my job is to help make sure that the construction people that actually do have these sledgehammers in hand don't do anything harmful, which then causes HS&E to come and visit me and have discussions that I don't want to have.
Insert more politics.
Again, politics with a side of politics.
So do you miss being on the line proper? And do you ever get down there any longer?
I don't miss it, but I'm out there. I'm actually out there every day. But I'm actually at the morning meetings. I hear about all the production issues, and I deal with all of our my techs and everything on the floor, and I actually deal with all my process engineers. So I don't miss it from that point of view. But I'm also making sure that, like, I've been working with Chrys Shea, and we are actually working on lack of a better way of putting it, we're developing a process certification for my process engineers. And so I'm not missing it because I'm actually not away from it. I'm not the guy, worried about, did my oven profile change by a degree or two anymore? I'm more worried about, hey, can all my engineers have the same knowledge and figure out how to solve all the problems so we can actually be more effective that way. So I don't miss it because I'm not really away from it. I'm just not doing the same day-to-day, let's keep the line moving and keep things rolling and stuff like that.
So you've been liberated from that so you can think of things on a bigger scale.
Yeah, that's the truth. I really do think on a bigger scale, but it's also, again, I talk to Chrys almost every day. I also talk to a lot of other people in the industry every day talking about stuff. So I'm not away from it at all. I just, again, looking at it from a different rose-colored glass, we'll say.
Okay. Well, when we talked, I know at one point you told me some of the pains and joys of working with MSL devices. And
yes, they are.
Do you mind going into any of those processes, how you deal with like an MSL5 device and how crazy you have to get with it?
Yes. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with MSL5, but MSL5 it's hell. So when you have parts that are MSL5, basically that means you've got 24 hours. You open it, you've got 24 hours to utilize it, put it on a circuit board, process it through your refill oven, and then probably clean it. And then you gotta vacuum bake it again, actually. Problem is that if I have an operator open it up at say 11:59 tonight, technically per the rules that we have written up, at 12:01 in the morning, which would only be 2 minutes, we would actually have to bake those parts out again, just because those parts are so finicky. And so when I say bake the parts out, we actually put them in a vacuum system, and we will vacuum bake them for up to 24 hours before we can use them again. And then they will sit in a nitrogen environment because you can't have any moisture, you can't have humidity or anything like that, or even changes in temperature. And the reason these parts are so weird is because they are very sensitive to what they do, and they have a lot of control from that point of view. There's even some MSL6 parts that we're talking about, which is basically 12 hours of lifespan. So if I open them at noon, guess what? 12 o'clock, midnight, I'm rebagging if I didn't use them. So it's
what percentage of the parts that you're handling fall under these classifications? Is it pretty widespread, or is it still very niche?
It's actually very widespread. We treat a lot of parts as MSL 4, 5, and 6. So probably 30% of our parts we're treating that way.
Forgive my ignorance here. There's no passives that are really MSL, are there?
No, but there's other items that are, and unfortunately, again, it's depending on how they're manufactured and their body themselves can they absorb moisture or whatever. So yeah, I mean, because of what we do and how we put parts on it, it's not uncommon to have 7 or 8 MSL parts for an assembly. So I mean, unfortunately, go ahead.
Have you seen what happens when a part that didn't get properly baked and had moisture in it goes through the oven?
Yeah, it's popcorn.
Really?
It's. I mean, if you've ever seen any of the IPC videos or NASA or anything like that shows popcorning of parts, that's exactly what happens. And the problem is that normally when you have popcorning in parts, it's not like a really great kernel of popcorn where it goes boom. It's more of boom. And so then you really got to look at it. And the problem is when you do that, again, if you get any kind of moisture, i.e., wash material or even flux, again, that part's already destroyed. Now, if you go test it, it could have other problems. So it's a very large issue.
Now, you're saying vacuum bake. When I look at some of these data sheets on some of these MSLs, and I never get anything past 3, but sometimes they say the bake time on are crazy hours. Like we're talking weeks at a regular oven. Does this vacuum allow you to speed up the process?
Yeah. So what we do is we have the vacuum, and then you actually have the temperature in the vacuum oven at 125 C. So we can actually have the vacuum bake process be down to 12 hours.
Wow. I would assume those are expensive.
define expensive, because if the parts are bad and you have to go tell the customer that the parts are bad, that cost of an oven is not expensive.
Yeah, plus like the amount of labor time you're saving by just having an oven running for weeks versus that.
Yeah.
Versus a 24 hour.
I mean, in my area, we have more than one vacuum oven. I'll say it that way. So there's always a constant. If they're doing a process on certain parts, there's other vacuum ovens that could be used in that. Make sure that those parts are in fact good. So we don't just have one; we have many vacuum ovens.
Do you have to like re-reel those, or how does that work?
Normally they're actually matrix parts or tube parts, so you don't tape and reel them.
Gotcha.
And those trays generally, I mean, the trays can actually go in the. You don't have to take anything out of the tray. You just pop the whole tray in the oven, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you just had a standard matrix tray, a JEDEC tray, and you put them in a vacuum oven, it's amazing how you can deform them really quickly. So we actually do have some basically Durastone fixtures that we put in there that they're pretty tough.
Safe even at reflow temperatures and everything.
It's the one thing that everybody forgets about vacuum baking parts is that you actually are giving yourself the additional lifespan. So then you are like resetting the clock all the time. And so, if we open it up, we use say 5 parts from that reel and then, or tray, and we put them back in that tray. Well, once you vacuum bake them, you've reset it. So then I can open it again tomorrow and have another 24 hours. So that's what's kind of nice about it. But you're right, Sean. If you just do a normal oven and you got to go weeks, it's a very complex, hard process. Where the vacuum make allows you to just make your life a whole lot easier and do it faster.
Yeah, I was quoting a job before that had a high MSL, and I was reading the data sheet on the part, and I was like, this is simple. How do I would have to hook up like a meter to my oven and run it for weeks and then see what that cost me.
Yeah, but there's actually a company out of Ohio that makes vacuum bake ovens, and they specialize in them. That's really kind of their niche. And everything is monitored, everything's controlled. It will tell you everything you need to do. So basically all you need to do is have power to it, and you also can have the nitrogen to it then. And then once you have them set up, they kind of lock themselves in place once you put it up for whatever your recipe is, say 12 hours. I mean, you can even speed it up and have it at 2 hours, but boy, that vacuum pump is working. But that's what they're doing. That's their whole entire specialty. That's what this company does. And so yeah, go ahead.
The Detroit in me loves to jimmy rig things. Now, I'm just spitballing here. I've been
on the road, so I get it. I've been on the Detroit road, so I get that.
Yeah, so I have a sous vide, right, that I vacuum seal my steaks in. Let's say I put the chips into the sous vide bag, my food saver, I'm sealing it, and then I throw it in a regular oven. Could we say that's vacuum, or no, it's a little different than that?
That's different.
Okay.
I like what you're doing. I'm curious how good your steak really is if you're doing the sous vide, but they're different. The best way to put it is that you're not going to, every vacuum oven's got a window, and when you put them in there, you're not all of a sudden going to see the bag go like this. It's designed to take basically the moisture out of that chamber down to a new level. So you're not trying to implode anything and seal it. You're trying to take the air out of it, and so you can remove the air out of it and the moisture.
What if you did this for like bread? Like, so you had a nice loaf of bread and you wanted to preserve it. You put it at a really low temp. Look at Daniel. But I'm just curious, like if you put it at a low temp, vacuum seal it out, then your bread would last a lot longer, right? Because it's the moisture that gets to it.
It's the moisture, but I'm not sure I want to eat that bread. But, Sean, if you want to go for it, I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to say go for it, try it, let me know how it works, and I'll call 911 if you need me to.
All right, cool. So that brings me to my question. We went to SMTAI, and I got to see you give my buddy Daniel his award. I don't know if you heard the yelling in the background that I did.
Yes, I did.
I tried to do it right as he was handing it to you, so he thought I was just going to clap, right? But then I would do it when my children are sleeping above me. It was a very loud yell. And, and all three of us, right? Like it brought such a new life to how I view the SMTA, the technical side of it, especially. And I was just kind of curious, like, how did you get started? Because I know you've been a member for a long time, and board of directors. And so, like, how did you get involved into it? And for a young guy, a guy, I'm not young, but a guy starting out in the SMTA, what would you recommend to try to get the most bang for your buck as a member?
Oh wow, that's an interesting and loaded question, actually. So when I started, I got a phone call that said, "Hey, do you want to attend a meeting?" I'm like, "Sure, this would be kind of fun. I could learn something, right?" And I went there, and they're like, "Hey, by the way, we need a chapter president. Do you want to be the chapter president?" I'm like, "You just met me
quickly.
Can you at least buy me dinner first before you assume that I want to become the president?" But I actually took it. I said, "What the hell? I'll take it and see what happens." Right. But I think anybody that actually gets in this industry and starts with it, there's many avenues. You can do the traditional, I'm going to join a student union or chapter and try to go from there, which is nice. You can join a chapter and say, okay, I'm going to attend an event and kind of go from there. My personal opinion is that with, podcasts like what you guys are doing, I would actually start watching some of these podcasts and just start hearing stuff about the industry that I'm potentially joining or thinking about joining. Because unfortunately, normally when you go to a chapter event, there are, I hate to say it this way, but the old dogs like me who might come knocking on you and say, "Hey, so you want to volunteer, do you?" Just because it's hard to get people to volunteer. But I always encourage people to just start going to shows and going to expos and go to a local event or look at webinars. I mean, Chrys Shea has done 1 million webinars that are absolutely fantastic. And, the thing is that it's a community, right? And you're trying to get in the community. So you have to start looking at what intrigues you about the community and how do we make sure that you get involved in that community. And so, unfortunately, there is not the perfect avenue for everybody. I mean, I can't tell you, okay, if you have 20 people, all 20 people are going to go to the same event and they're all going to be happy and they're all going to be jolly and whatever. I think everybody is different. So you have to start looking at what do you enjoy as a human. I mean, there's a lot of, I hate to say it this way, but introverts in the world now. And so introverts don't necessarily prefer to deal with, people. So they're not necessarily going to want to all of a sudden go to a local chapter event or an expo. So I think you have to do it individually and figure out what is comfortable for you and attend either a webinar or attend something that gives you some sort of something out of it and then start taking it from there. Because, I mean, again, you guys have an amazing format that you guys have tapped into that I think if people at least start watching and listening to your podcast, it gives them the opportunity to get something different than they would have not had at a expo or a technical presentation or anything like that. So I think as long as you're open, that's what you should do. There's not the perfect cookie cutter plan, sadly. I wish there was because we'd have a whole lot more people in it, but it's what it is. I know
there's definitely a ton of resources.
It's a resource, but you also got to look at too. People like to go to Apex and like everybody's like, "Oh, Apex was great." Okay, what was so great about Apex? And everybody's like, "Oh, there was a lot of machines there." I'm like, oh, "Okay, so did you talk to people? Did you get interaction and have communication?" Okay, that wasn't that great then. And then like SMTA International, like, "Oh, did you talk to people?" Well, yeah, okay, what did you talk to them about? And people are like, "Well, we talked about machine." Okay, but did you ask them why they got in the industry, why they chose, the path they chose, right? And a lot of people don't. And so that's why I said it, like, how do you pick what's right for you? You have to know you, which means, are you an introvert, extrovert? Again, you can tell I'm not shy. And so I would be up to ask everybody and say, "Hey, how did you guys get in the industry?" But others might be like, "Oh, I don't want to know that. I just want to, hide in my corner and maybe learn about stencil printing or reflow and then walk away."
Yeah.
Well, we didn't really ask you that yet. Like, how did you find the industry then, Bill?
By mistake. I'm not going to lie to you. So I got an associate's degree in electronics, and my buddy who just got out of the Navy went to work for a contract manufacturer, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you should think about the machine side of stuff. I'm building electronics." And I'm like, "Sure, I've never been a mechanical guy, but okay, whatever." And he's like, "You don't want to be a test guy." I'm like, "Why don't I want to be a test guy? But that's really what I went to school for." He's like, "You will hate life like there's no tomorrow being a test guy." And I'm like, "Okay, well." So I interviewed and literally accepted the job. I worked a second shift technician job and loved it. And then just kind of went from there. So it was a mistake. I was not meant to do that.
That's actually pretty similar in a way to mine, because I was just looking for a winter job, and I actually applied for a quality control position, and they didn't give it to me. They called me back and said, "We've got a role in production if you're interested." And I was like, "Yeah, man, not really." But it was running a pick and place machine, and that was pretty sweet on the interview. Like, just seeing what the place did when I was walking through for my interview, I was like, well, those machines were pretty cool when I walked by them. Like, I guess I could do this for the winter at least. And, just now they can't pull me away from the place. But yeah, definitely a happy little accident.
That story is not more common than we realize. I kind of get the feeling that most folks within our industry, it kind of found them rather than them finding it, right? But maybe that brings up a question: how do we organically attract folks to replenish and staff these positions that are open? How do we get the younger generation excited about what it is that we do? How do we kind of market our industry?
Oh, that is such the $1 million question, right? Because if you listen to the government numbers that are by 2030, the electronic industry as a whole is going to need 30,000 people. Okay. Think about that. 30,000 people for the electronic industry to basically reinforce it and reshore it and everything like that. Now, I mean, you have, community colleges in certain areas that have 7 people going through a class for certain stuff for electronics. And then there's some colleges that have, SMT and all that as part of their curriculum for designers, but it's not necessarily, their niche. So again, you're talking 4 or 5. So, I mean, I'm not a mathematician. Again, I went to public education and all that, but, if I got 12 or 20 people right there and I need 30,000, I'm a little short on what I need. But I think what really is actually going to attract people to this industry, and I really believe this, is that if there are guys like you that literally do like 5-minute videos on whatever, screen printing or pick and place or pick whatever you want from a category, and it's only 5 minutes. You give 5-minute vignettes and literally put them out there and let people start getting that taste of what it is. Because again, 30,000 people, we got a problem. We got to figure out something. And the industry as a whole keeps trying to do a lot of different things, which is great. But if you don't give it in a way that the audience wants, you're not even going to reach your audience. So, I mean, I have enough friends and coworkers and stuff like that live and die by YouTube for everything, right? And so that's why I'm like, if you literally have 2 to 5 minute vignettes, and then if they want more, okay, there's additional vignettes for whatever. That's how you can start to get people interested, because everybody forgets that, I hate to say it, but this little thing in their hand that everybody needs and wants and loves, it's got electronics in it.
Right.
It just does.
I think that's so wise, though. I'm a fisherman, and we have this saying that, you match the hatch, right? So you go with the bait for the fish that you're trying to catch. So tailoring the approach to what folks want to consume, these short format, I think that's really wise.
Well, and it's smart in the other sense. Like, we do a lot of these YouTube shorts. We do take clips from our podcast and turn them into little shorts that we release on YouTube. But we don't, and we do videos that are strictly from our own pages for LinkedIn. But we've never really mixed the two in that sense. Like, we could, the same type of informative, educational videos that we're trying to do about our processes that we see every day. We could be releasing those videos through the Decode YouTube page also as kind of a informative, educational, supplemental addition to the page's content. It's kind of a good idea, actually.
I like that.
You know what scares me the most, though, is there's a lot of people. Oh, I love the dark. I wear an eye mask when I go to sleep. There's a lot of 30 to 35 year old 30 to 35 year experience subject matter experts out there, which I would call you. But there isn't a lot of people with 20 years, right?
No, there isn't.
And the gap between the people who are in their close to their 60s or in their 60s versus what's going to be left behind them is who are we going to call in 10 years when I need, it's who is everyone else going to call?
And I agree with what you're saying, but this is kind of why. So Chrys and I, when we started working on the certification course, so I want a certification course for my company because I have to have it, right? And so she actually came into my building last week, and she really thought she was coming in. We were going to make a bunch of PowerPoints, rah, sis, boom, bop. Wow, did I throw a curveball? And I threw a curveball because I said, okay, let's take everything and throw it aside. We're starting fresh. We're going to a brand new. What is the foundation we need for the people we want to attract, right? And so we actually developed this notion of how do we make a foundation, and how do we actually, who's good at, say, okay, if you're picking place, you're probably somebody that's very mechanically inclined. You're probably somebody that really enjoys robotic movement, and you're going to be like, okay, this really, it's something really amazing, right? And then if you're somebody that, like an FBI person, guess what? You're probably going to be that data guy that everybody needs, but everybody hates, because they're like, oh my God, they gave me 17 different things on data that I'm like, I just wanted one. I'm like, they gave me this, right? And so we started making this template of saying, okay, how many of you guys remember the choose your own adventures, right? On page 4, you went this way, page 6 way, and then page 12, you always ended up in the stupid tiger den and you always ended up dead. I know I was that guy. That was me, right? But the format we were doing is literally you start to choose your own adventure, and you start to say, okay, I understand the entire SMT process as a novice, we'll say a novice approach, but then you start to think about it like, oh, I really love data. I'm going to be an SPI, AOI kind of guy. Mechanical guy, I want to be pick and place, maybe my screen printer guy. Oh, hey, I really like being multifaceted, maybe my reflow guy, maybe my cleaning, whatever, right? And you start to choose these adventures. And I think if we can start to share that with the industry, but that's really what Chrys and I are thinking, is we're going to share that with the industry, is how do we get people to get interested? Well, then you have that opportunity to say, okay, choose the path that you think would be really good for you, because this is going to intrigue you. And that's what, again, choose your audience, target your audience, and give your audience what they want. Instead of trying to do, everybody's got to learn the same thing, it doesn't work. I mean, plus the fact that, no offense to anybody, but some people are really good at visual learning. Some people, you give them a book, they're done. Awesome. Great job, right? But those visual guys, maybe they need 4 or 5 times visually to see what happened, to understand it, so they can do it. And we also have to think about that. And a lot of the technology in the world and stuff like that doesn't do that. So, if you approach, you guys do your vignettes, but think about it from a multi-purpose point of view. Could you do it from a visual point of view? Could you do it from a book point of view, a written point of view, or whatever? And it's I think you're going to see people start coming to that because it's like, oh, hey, you're doing something different. You're giving me something that I really want. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this works. This makes sense. And so that's how we're going to have to get people in this industry. Again, you target your audience, you give the audience what they want, and you do it from a different approach.
It's kind of funny because Daniel does a photo with a long text. Elias usually does long text, photo as well. And I do the video, right? So it's almost like we're all three touching on what you're talking about as well.
Everybody's superior until they're not superior. But no, I mean, you guys are doing some really cool stuff. And that's why as much as you guys are kind of, shy and timid when we, people like Chrys and I give you compliment, we're giving it to you because you're thinking outside the box. And the problem is that the industry as a whole has been in such a very large, confined box because boy, oh boy, did we solve all kinds of problems. We overcame, lead-free issues. Oh my God. And then we figured out the LED world, and oh my God, we figured out, 201. Cool. Rah, rah, says Spoon Bob. Then we got fat, dumb, and happy. And the problem is when you get fat, dumb, and happy, you don't actually think outside the box anymore. And so we did. The industry as a whole got fat, dumb, and happy, which is great. But a lot of people made a lot of money. A lot of people retired, a lot of whatever, right? And like you all said, how do you get that knowledge out of people? You get that knowledge out of people by having them talk about stuff like what you guys are doing, but you do it in a weird way because, again, we've all been to a presentation where somebody gives an hour presentation. I'm going to bet you like $5 because, I got a dog I got to take care of that, I got to buy Chewy toys for. So I'm going to bet you $5 that hour presentation, you're going to remember two things: the person's name and maybe the topic they were talking about. Now, is that value added? No. But if I can give you a 5-minute vignette, you're going to remember something more because it's like very specific. It's like, boom, stencil printing, pick and place, whatever. Boom. And you didn't go into, I need this kind of Gerber data. I need this and I need this. You went into, this is a robot. This is how the robot works. And this is what it did. Literally. I mean, and as silly as that sounds, again, give your audience what they want because our YouTube world lives on 5-minute videos and stupid cat videos too, by the way.
I love stupid cat videos.
One of the ways we're trying, like, it's a good way to, I think if you want to get young people in, you gotta meet them where they're at, right? One of the things we're trying to do at Aurora BoardWorks is we sponsor a local high school robotics program. Yeah. And so that you're helping empower them to learn, to get their hands into it, get that spark, get that passion, get that creativity working, that mind going at an early age. And, if they realize, man, this is fun, I really enjoy doing this, and somebody's actually going to pay me to do this, you might get them interested at an earlier age. And something else I was thinking about, kind of literally just popped into my head while we were having this conversation, is we've done an open house before. That's cool. You let the public come in, you run some boards, whatever. I mean,
there is a vendor that does that at some of the trade shows, and they've done that before. But, and I agree with what you're saying, but I think you're kind of, I'm going to say being a little short-sighted, because the industry as a whole, we've been very specific on, okay, we're going to do printer, pick and place, reflow, blah, blah, blah. The problem is that electronic manufacturing isn't just that. I mean, Sean probably knows more than anybody. If you talk about the entire box build,
that. What a clip!
I'm gonna give him props all day long.
What a clip!
If you start to talk about the entire box build, you all of a sudden get more people to be involved because you all of a sudden, again, hey, maybe I really do like the design of the box and then the design of the stencil and all of that stuff, right? Because that's all different stuff people get that trip to trigger, because we've been so focused on like this, we got to focus on this. And that means everything from, how do you maybe 3D print an enclosure to, hey, I have a board, I got to put conformal coating on, and by the way, maybe I have to put molding on it and what potting and all of that stuff. And the more that you just open up people's eyes to the entire package, the more that you get people involved and you want them to be realizing that. So you do that. I mean, again, you guys start focusing on that stuff. And then again, the fish will come, the people will come, and they'll be like, oh, hey, we like that. I mean, robotics is fantastic, and it's got language. You got to figure out all the coding and all that stuff. That's what people want to know. They want to know all of that because, again, if you just focus on this, maybe they're not going to like it. But again, if I give you this, maybe I like it.
You cast a wider net, you're more likely to find something that appeals to the target, right? If you
yeah.
show all facets, then something is going to catch their eye. Like, I like that.
Yes.
It drives me absolute nuts that the case is designed first before the circuit board. I can't tell you the amount of designs that come to me, and then I had
He's
this.
Not wrong, Daniel.
The worst.
It's just, but it is wrong. I mean, it's the wrong way, but it's the way it happens. I know.
Yeah, the worst one was this guy has a product where it has to go into a specific case, and the case is real small like this, right? But they got these relays on it, and these relays have these giant pins in the bottom of it, right? Mm-hmm. So we sent it to him after we did a little trim. We didn't know what spec you needed it to be, right? So you just did your standard trim. And he came back and said, you guys got to sand these down for me. I need them to be like 007 tall, right? And I'm like, excuse me, right? He paid me for it, and surprisingly, they worked. I mean, you can see the copper in the pin, right? And it's an actual art form to try not to scrape the solder mask off, like you're using a belt sander, right? And I'm literally grinding down pins on a pad so that way it can sit inside this housing. And I'm like, man, just change your housing, like this is crazy. Why are you making me do this, But there's example after example where it's got to fit in this case. It's got to fit in this case. And it's like backwards
function
thinking.
Following form, really, right?
I don't know which way.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I don't know. I would think the form would follow the function. Yeah, you're right. You are right. Yeah. Took me a minute. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you're correct. Bill, if you would have did a visual, I would have understood it better, but because he used the words, I don't, because English isn't my first language. So, I have difficulties.
I'm curious on like some of the coolest technology you've seen in your experience, Bill. So like, we only have one pick and place machine per line. Sean, I know, has two on his one. I've got I've got two lines with one machine. He's got one line with two machines, right, Sean? So how many machines have you ever seen in one line together? And what was the CPH of that line, if you have any idea?
I can actually tell you that one because I actually interviewed with a company out of Indiana that was is a contract manufacturer. They also make pianos, but that's another story. You might know who they are then. They actually had lines that had 7 machines in them. And each machine was basically module, and they were designed right now with the way when I was there, they were designed to basically populate, basically 80,000 parts in an hour, in a minute. I mean, and because of what they were building. And again, it's basically, one of these things, right? Where you need fast. And so that's great. And that's fantastic. But the problem is when you start doing that, you kind of take the art of electronic manufacturing away, but now all you're doing is you're making a widget. I mean, you have large companies like that fruit company and others that, they use multiple contract manufacturers to pump out a gazillion phones, which is great. But remember, in their world, if their phone doesn't work, they throw it away. They don't even repair it because the cost does not behoove them to fix it. That's Whereas, crazy. You start doing some, high reliability stuff or medical or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, speed is great. But what you really want is you want to have more reliability and higher quality. And so you always have to weigh that part of the equation. That's kind of when it's always been a frustration to me because everybody worries about, how am I going to line balance my system? How am I going to get the fastest throughput? What am I going to do? Okay, well, let me ask you this question. How many boards can you get in your reflow oven? That's your bottleneck. No matter how fast your machines are, your bottleneck is going to be your reflow oven. And so if you're doing a RAM spike, you're going to be fairly quick. If you do a RAM spike, then you've changed your speed. And again, when you have board following board after following board, everybody also forgets that you start to lose heat because you don't have that gap and you're not allowing that space to start warming up again. So you don't even allow that to even stay the same. So, speed is always what you need it to be, but it's always to be based on your oven. I mean, you can make a screen printer do a 17-second cycle. God bless you. Have fun with that. But make sure that print is dead on. Otherwise, they're going to throw that board away because you're not even going to fix it. So same thing with pick and place and same thing with reflow. That's great. Numbers are fantastic. But again, what is your quality? What is your, how are you going to generate incentive to make people want to do it? Because again, if you're telling them, oh my God, we got to have this pace. I mean, there's examples I can tell you right now that are, certain satellite companies that they're going to work their engineers like 80 hours because you better get that, tenth of a second out. Well, is that tenth of that second really going to affect you long term? It might, but probably not. I mean, long term. So
that's a really interesting point about the reflow oven, because I don't hear anybody ever talk about that, right? Anytime anybody's talking about throughput, it's always CPA.
When I first started,
it will be horsepower.
Yeah.
When I first started, we were sharing one reflow oven. We didn't have two yet. And so you would do this choreography to weave in between and change profiles and try to do it in ways where you weren't interrupting the other line and stuff. And so I remember one time, I had a batch of boards I was ready to run through, and I just started feeding them through. I just butted them right up to each other, just board to board for as many as could fit, because I wanted to get them all through before they started coming out the other end, because we didn't have any automation at this time. So I had to collect them at the other end too. So, you stick them all through like that. And those first ones coming out okay. And then as you get through it, you start getting some of the joints don't look so hot anymore. What's happening? Because it didn't have proper airflow going through anymore, and didn't have even the right ramp or profile even happening anymore when you have that many boards traveling through at the same time, and you're not letting air travel through the same ways. It doesn't surround each board, but instead it's only going on the sides as they're all just in one solid formation. I mean, that'll screw things up pretty quick.
Go ahead, Sean. You're deep in thought. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I got a technical question for you, because I know about the term, but I've never really delved into it too much. So, Rollo type paste. I just learned this word actually yesterday. Halogen free. What is the purpose of this stuff?
Well, Rollo is a low activation rosin based material. Okay, and halogen free is the salt. What kind of salt does it have in there? Basically, what they're referring to there is the stabilizer. So I'm a tin lead kind of guy, because what I have to build is tin lead all day, every day. So I like salt in my solder paste, but guys that don't, because it affects your reflow. So think of it this way. When you have a solder paste, that solder paste isn't one ingredient, okay? It could be up to 40 ingredients. It could be stabilizers, fire retardants. By the way, there's stuff that has to go over to Europe to make sure that we save the 2-spotted brown sparrow. Trust me, it's there. I've been there. And a couple other things. And so that's all stuff that you have to reflow and understand that. So Rollo is just low activation. There's not a lot of acid in it. So it's a very mild material when you're thinking about it. So if you think about it, whereas something that's HO, that pretty much is probably water soluble, and it's probably really, really aggressive flux, which means that if you don't wash it off, that acid still is continuing to do what it needs to do. Whereas an LO,
eat away.
It eats away. And I've seen it. I've seen guys forget to wash boards with HO, and you come in 24 hours, and boy, you got holes in that board you weren't supposed to have.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow.
I've seen it. So where LO basically allows you to, a lot of the, we'll say the no cleans love to be LO, because it doesn't have to be really aggressive, but they can still give you a pretty good solder joint. And then it kind of forms a nice little pudding skin on it. And that's how they make it called, non-clean material. But Rollo is pretty standard nowadays. It's part of it also, then again, you're not heavily activated, but you're also not going to have 40 ingredients, but you're probably going to have 30. So best way to think of it that way. That help or no?
The way it was kind of described to me was it's going to be less if you're part. Like I have this one job where I have these ICs, and I'm pretty sure the legs are contaminated on them because it doesn't matter what I do to my profile. It doesn't matter.
They repel the solder and the reflow.
Oh, it's like
what?
It's just like a tube on a lake. They just float, right? They're just bouncing around, and it's a really tiny.
Visual, by the way, I like the visual. By the way,
yeah. We have Great Lakes. We're all around it, so it was like no matter what I did, and then they're really small SO6, and then I have to like touch up every single one, right, to get it to sit down. And this one, I talked to Tony Lentz from FCT came to my facility one time, and he was telling me. They used to have a different type of paste that it's more aggressive, and they could possibly try to clean some of that contamination off before it goes into to its final stages of the reflow. And like that sounded amazing, right? And now you're removing even more of that by making it less aggressive. I would assume you're going to see that on more parts than you would have prior with running that. I just don't see the benefit of why someone would want
it. Won't be as aggressive cleaning the leads and everything, cleaning the pads and leads to make it wet properly, you're saying?
Yeah. So Tony was probably referring to an ORHO, which is our organic high activity, and great stuff. Problem is, again, you have to get rid of the acid, and which means you have to have a cleaning process. So a lot of, no offense to you guys, but a lot of the smaller contract facilities or even smaller production houses, cleaning is hard. Cleaning is you end up with a batch machine. Batch machines are great. I've written an entire book how to develop a batch process, an entire book for it. But I also do an entire inline process because that's what I have to use now. And so, when you have a low activity flux, people tend to not clean it. Because that product is probably not going to be needed for 40 years. So, okay, maybe it fails after 5, right? But yeah, so then it gets really hard because part of the other problem is, the question is, if you already have contamination, can you run this assembly with, nitrogen? Or, that does help at least remove or minimize the amount of, oxidation that is still occurring. Because remember, those parts are always oxidized, no matter what. As soon as they're, whether you're putting them on a board and running them through a reflow oven or they're sitting in a tape and reel, they're oxidizing. As much as people don't realize that, they do. And so, yes, high activity works really well, but it also, again, there's a price. You got to clean, you have to be very diligent, and you have to be very thorough. So again, which evil do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with trying to clean the activity off, which is good, or do you want to deal with, okay, I don't have to have a cleaner, I can have this, but I'm now going to have something that is in fact, usable. So, the first question would be, can you clean the parts themselves before you put them on a board? Maybe yes, maybe no.
Have you ever seen people burnish the bot, like take the component and rub it on sandpaper to scrape the bottom of the leads clean off of whatever oxidation is there?
I've seen it. The problem is all you're doing is you're getting down to the base metal. You're not actually, and the problem is when you get down to the base metal, it's copper. Or it could be nickel. And so then when you're done that, you're really not going to get it to solder. And so you have to think about all that stuff too. So part of it is that, again, you're dealing with, maybe, again, no offense, Sean, but maybe somebody brought you a reel of parts that are 15 years old. Well, they probably weren't properly stored. They weren't in a nitrogen environment. They weren't, whatever. Well, so now you're trying to deal with how do you deal with that? One of the easy ways to do it is you actually send those parts to a tinning house. Let the tinning house re-tin the leads for you. But that's all they do all day is literally tin parts, whether it's lead-free to lead-free or, lead-free to tin lead. And so you can do that, or you can even do it yourself where you have the parts, you have a small little pot, but you got to have motion. So you got to have a little bit of momentum to actually make it happen. Then you can double dip it, basically treat it like you're removing gold, and you can actually basically refresh those leads, and then you put them back on, your a matrix tray or whatever, and then you can actually do it that way. You're gonna have a whole lot more luck that way, because I have to imagine that if you have some inspector, operator, quality person doing touch up, that's a lot of time. And I have to imagine that they're probably averaging, because they're trying to get it right, they're probably averaging 30 seconds a lead. And 30 seconds a lead, adds up really fast if you have, say, 100 leads that you have to do that to for every board. That's a lot of time. I've
placed 19,000 of these this year.
Yeah.
So it's not just like the one batch. I wish it was, right? I wish it was so bad.
That's what I'm saying. Your customer had these parts stored in a warehouse somewhere. Literally, that's all they did. They stored them in a box somewhere, and they're like, hey, we'll just keep. They probably bought a lifetime buy. Yeah. And they put them in a box somewhere, and they're like, oh, these are going to be good forever. Not realizing that they're oxidized, because that's what happens.
These actually came from Elias. He said there was somebody in Mexico that was selling them to him. He gave me a good deal. Said they fell off the back of a truck or something. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't want to know that one. Well, but no, unfortunately, Sean, you're dealing with problems that are very common. To me, I would send them to a tinning house or a replating house and let them replate.
I think Tony said that the other paste had more bismuth in it. I don't know for sure, but I wanted to say the paste that he had before had
lower temperature.
Something.
But bismuth is that weird metal that everybody has like jumped on the bandwagon on. It's like, oh, bismuth. Okay. Bismuth has some other problems. It's got some real mechanical issues that you have to be very aware of. And if you don't have the right ratio, have fun with that one, because I know I don't want that product.
In general, though, don't you think it makes sense to be driving towards a lower temperature soldering point to put less stress on your components?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you what. Go talk to all of the EV guys, anybody that makes LEDs. The reason I say that is because all of their assemblies, all of their circuits, I mean, EV guys, LED guys, I've lived LEDs where they've flown off because they reflowed themselves because it wasn't on a ceramic or aluminum board. So, you get the EV boards, they're running 1,000 volt. That's hot. Those boards are just cranking. And so if you have a lower temp solder, okay. So if my self-driving car
application really matters.
Yeah. So my self-driving car is now starting to turn left, and all of a sudden I just hit a cement truck. I don't really know if I want to be that guy to find out, where it's going to be at. So yes, application is very, very specific on that. And yes, I think low temp solder is really fantastic for very, very select things. But again, you're talking about, okay, maybe something in space where, I'm worried about some tin whiskering things, or, something where it's going to be in a negative 50 C environment for the next 40 years as some sort of satellite. Sure. Great. But there's a whole lot of things that are going to come back and like, yeah, that wasn't the right thought. I mean, it was cool, but not sure that's the right path.
Do you have an environmental chamber you ever play with?
Yes. I'll just say it that way. I have many environmental chambers.
Do you use nitrogen in your reflow process?
Depending on the board, yes. If I have 201s, no. Or even 402s, I don't run nitrogen. If I have, larger than that and then some QFPs or QFNs, sure, I'll run nitrogen all day. But when you run 402s and 201s and you're running nitrogen, you're going to have tombstoning all day, every day. I mean, Sean, and you guys, Elias makes probably a really great stencil, but he can only do so much. And then, if you don't have the oven set up, then tombstones.
Thank you.
For making a good stencil? Yeah, I want you to make a good stencil.
I actually have a nitrogen oven, but I hook air up to it. Because when they came by and installed, they have these like flappies in the front and in the back.
Yes, they do.
And I'm like, it's going to knock my components off as it goes through. And he was like, well, you can cut it a little bit to get the height.
You're supposed to have a cut, yeah.
And I'm like,
is that like an atmosphere curtain? Is that supposed to kind of contain some of the? Okay,
it's supposed to basically give you an environmental system in your oven. You're kind of making walls without having walls.
But Bill, there was like 7,000 flappy things on there. I would be there for years cutting that thing.
Paper cutter, they work really well.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
You got a kick shear, Sean.
There you go.
I do.
But the other problem you got to think about, Sean, is that those little flappies, they do a really great keeping, your environment, whether it's nitrogen or oxygen. But at the end of, say, your reflow oven, where all your flux is now gathering because you've hopefully had a proper recipe and your flux is now hopefully either going up your stack or kind of still in the atmosphere, because remember, it does go everywhere. It gets on the floppies. And so the other problem that people forget is those little floppies, those little curtains, they're actually a disposable item. They're supposed to be replaced every 6 months. And if you don't do that, what happens is you end up getting all kinds of interesting contamination on your circuit board because you didn't change your little floppies. Really? And the beauty of the little floppies is whoever your oven guy is, it's a kit. I mean, you can actually buy replacement little floppies, and you literally just, again, paper cutter, you cut them whatever size you want, and you kind of go from there. I mean, that's the easy way to do it. But again, you got to replace them every 6 months. Otherwise, you get a lot of flux, you get a little dross, a lot of just garbage on those things. And boy, do they get all over your circuit boards, and then your customer's like, so this extra brown stuff, do I have to pay extra money for it, or just you threw it in for fun?
I slide them out when I can't find a board that I thought I put in the oven to make sure there's no board in the oven, right? So I'll pull them out and I look at it.
Okay, so if you're having to do that, that means your oven rails are not quite perfectly parallel.
Well,
so
mine's mesh belt. I'm mesh belt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I bought an oven and had no clue what I was doing. I'm a board guy, and then that's actually going to be my next purchase. I wanted X-rays, but I actually got the great. I've been blessed that there's a person with 36 years experience around here that is moving on from his old company, is going to help me out, and he's like, this is the first thing we have to do is get rid of this mesh belt. We have to go with conveyorized, and I couldn't agree more.
Mesh and rail is nice if you can get both, because it gives you a lot of flexibility that way.
Yeah, I mean, mesh is great if you're only doing one side, but rails do a lot better for
automation, for sure.
Automation, and then dual side and stuff like that. So I would agree with that. The one negative of rails, and everybody forgets this about thinking about rails, is again, ovens are one of those things. They work really great if you maintain them, but if you are not so great about your maintenance. So the rail, there's always a fixed rail, and then there's the adjustable rail. Yes, I have done all of this, tech, engineer, you name it. So that adjustable rail, the way it's designed is on screws. There's 3 screws. There's one in the middle and 2 on the ends. Well, that screw has got a brass nut, because brass works really well for this because it avoids heat. And the problem is that what happens is that if that doesn't go nice and smooth the way it's supposed to, in and out, that brass nut can start to, it can actually go bad. And so that lead screw starts to get this little wobble to it. And so you're no longer parallel. So all of a sudden, it could be 2 inches on both ends, it could be 4 inches in the middle.
Wow.
Done there, done that.
And fall out in the middle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you have different purity demands for different machines? Because I know like the Selective is going to have a much more stringent quality requirement than a reflow oven is.
Are you talking about nitrogen or just? Mm-hmm. Okay. So because I use a lot of nitrogen, we run really ultra pure nitrogen anyways for both reflow and Selective.
Okay.
But if you have nitrogen tanks or a generator, I mean, you can use both for both systems. Everybody says that nitrogen is important for selective thought, and I agree with that. But you also have to have, are you going to have the proper blow off, and how are you going to have the heating and everything like that? Because that's all important, right? If you don't have the blow off, so that you're now trying to get rid of shorts and stuff like that, it doesn't matter how much nitrogen, how pure it is. you're still going to have problems because nitrogen, all it's doing is trying to prevent oxides. So you don't have potential dross issues or whatever that. But again, if you're doing your setup right, it doesn't matter what the purity is. So there's always been this argument. Everybody wants the ultra pure nitrogen. So fun fact, folks, the planet Earth, 78.2% of this planet is made of, nitrogen. Fun fact. I know, really scary, right? So when you have that, again, it's great. It's a great tool. It's a great marketing tool. All of the selective solder guys are like, oh, you have to have the ultra pure one. And all the refill guys are like, oh, you got to be ultra pure. Okay, sure. But nitrogen, when you are running it in certain forms, it's probably going to be like 98% pure anyways from your, local nitrogen dealer or even nitrogen generator. It's going to be 98% pure. If you need more than that, you are probably doing like medical grade or high reliability stuff that maybe you're just doing it for protection. You're not necessarily doing it for reduction of oxide. Because again, if you're doing it right, you're going to have an assembly in that selective solder, we'll say 2 minutes. Okay. Well, 2 minutes is not enough time for you to completely oxidize everything. It just isn't. I mean, if it is, we got some other problems we got to talk about too, like maybe where your flux went or didn't actually go. And then, so 2 minutes or whatever your time is, your nitrogen is going to help, but it's not going to completely save you. And it's not going to completely make you brand new. And it's not going to make you your perfect world. So you just have to, again, you have to weigh all of that when you're starting to do your processing and what are you going to do?
Just one factor of many, right?
Oh, way too many. Way too many.
Well, Bill, I know we could talk about process stuff forever. This is so much fun. I know we are so grateful that you joined us. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Oh, no. If you guys ever want me again, I'm more than happy. But so now that guy I sent you guys, Dr. Elliot Fowler, you guys need him on the show. Okay. So the reason I say this, Elliot is uber smart. I mean, he is probably going to rule the world someday. That's how smart he is. But he is one of those guys that he actually came from a completely different world than manufacturing. So when you talk to him, he actually is not thinking like a manufacturing person. He's thinking of, from this point of view. So he's one of those guys, once you get him talking about stuff, it's like, dude, you're in a zone, man. I'm going to let you go. Have fun with it. He actually already texted me. He's like, just let him know I'm willing. Just what do they want to do? Let me know. So think about it. Think about having him. And then, I think you guys should think about your little vignettes and go from there.
Well, we usually like to give people a chance to promote. So, I mean, if I know Honeywell is a real tiny little company, if you need to try to give them something to get them off the ground, now's your chance to.
I'm just going to say it this way. I'm going to promote you guys. I appreciate the amazing work that you guys are doing, and I appreciate the amazing work that you're wanting to do for the industry. So I'm going to throw a question back to you guys. Let's put a little pressure on you guys. What is it that you guys want from all of this fun? What is it that you want to empower the world with? Go. By the way, you're going to learn, again, I don't discriminate. I treat everybody the same. I completely come in with a knife and I cut everybody down all the time. So I don't discriminate. So, Hen?
We actually had a conversation between the three of us recently about kind of this question, like what is our vision for this endeavor? And I think the answer to that is probably, it kind of just started out as just casual conversation and we were having fun and learning a little bit. So let's see what this turns into. But moving forward, I think what we're trying to really create is a space for collaboration primarily, and a space where people in different disciplines of the industry can meet and chat and share what they know and unique challenges from where they sit in the industry, and just kind of open up the dialogue to be broader than just stencils or PCBA or PCB, right? Let's connect the dots and have a place where the minds in the industry can meet and just talk.
That's a really nice, sweet, politically correct answer.
No, it's legit. It's legit the answer. We said we want to learn. We want to expand our network, right? We want to network with people, and we want to be recognized where if somebody thinks of using our services or products, they would think of us, right?
Okay.
That was literally the answer.
Nice, sweet, and politically
agree
correct.
with that. That stuff's great. I want to get rich beyond my wildest imagination. So I think that's probably, as good a place as any to leave it. I appreciate, again, like I said, appreciate your time, your willingness to join us, your candor, and your guest booking for us too. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for that. By the way,
can't ask enough of that. If every guest booked the next guest, half our job would be taken care of. So
I can get you whoever you want. You tell me who you want, I'll get you them.
All right,
Perfect.
There it is. It's on camera.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I guess that'll do it for Rev 1.17 from the Decode. Hope to see you again, Rev 1.18. Thank you.